Ladies and gentlemen, we have hit Season 2, Episode 21, Destinies Collide. Let's build up to that last moment, shall we? Let's go through the episode sequentially. 25 years ago, I've already mentioned that, Bruce Campbell's there, Black Spike Land, sorry, the Dark Kingdom. They've got this whole thing going on. I don't know where to start with this. Usually I don't like to nitpick things too much, but I have to point something out. So I want you to see a picture, okay? This picture specifically. Wow, that's a really large picture. Let's try to make that slightly smaller, shall we? I really wish they wouldn't stop moving, or rather that they would stop moving where this button is. There we go, okay. You see this? This is the shot, okay? So there's them. They're overlooking a cliff, which has a bunch of spikes coming out of it, and they're staring at the Dark Kingdom in the distance, okay? So, to be very clear, the shot leading up to this is them wheeling the wagon, the caravan, in one direction up to this cliff edge. And then they're like, okay, we've got this, right? Just remember this. Obviously, this thing can turn, but it very clearly didn't. That's important, all right? Because the very, very next thing we see is it slowly rolls backwards. This is the shot immediately after that. And immediately it starts rolling backwards off of a cliff, which is right behind it, and down and smashes into pieces. What? This threw me so hard, I actually had to pause the episode, rewind, and rewatch the scene. And then rewatch the scene in slow-mo to make sure I wasn't missing anything. I actually legitimately thought this might have been like a dream sequence, because that's the kind of dream logic you'll see in dream logic. Imagine you're driving along a road, you get out of the car, and then the car reverses back down the road, but now the road's just a cliff, and it just rolls over the cliff, because that's exactly what just happened. Huh? Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, yeah, it's because plot. They had to destroy the caravan. Why? Why destroy the caravan? They couldn't possibly have taken it with them anyways. What possible narrative beat is served by actually destroying the caravan? They don't even spend any time on the drama of the moment. All they do is immediately turn it into a shorty joke. This is such a confusing thing. Yeah, they've literally destroyed the caravan more than once prior to now. Why do this? Was this literal filler? Did they have to pad out the runtime? Is this going to lead into something? I'm sorry. This is this episode in a nutshell, and that's why I wanted to spend so much time on this. Because I don't like to go down every single individual beat when it comes to these kind of things. I just like to give one example and then mention that this kind of thing happens a lot. A lot of elements of this episode are weird. Like, nonsensically weird. Like, didn't actually think it out at all and we're just trying to get to the next scene. Weird. And so I find myself looking at this, and I wanted to, like, zoom in the camera to explain what I mean when I say weird. Like, okay, so you had to cheat to destroy the caravan, but then you didn't do anything with that. You narratively cheated, which is a negative, and then you didn't do anything with it, which is a negative. Like, why? Why do this? And there's so many elements of that in this episode that it's confusing to me. So then they have a song. Cassandra starts singing about how they're together and they're united, and it turns into a... Hang on, there's a duet and there's a quartet. What's a three? A triet? I actually don't remember. What's a triet called? Or is it just a trio? A triet? A tetriet? That doesn't sound right. Whatever. Anyway, so the three of them... Is it a triet? Man, I don't know. The three of them start singing this song. It's a good song. But it makes no sense. And I know I said I wouldn't go down every single one of these rabbit holes, but there are lots of elements of, huh, in this episode. The whole thrust of the song, if you're listening to the lyrics, is how they're going to be dividing up. How after this is done, they're going off on their separate paths. What? Where's that coming from? Why would they think that's happening? That's not even, like, foreshadowing in any real sense of the word. That's just, huh? How would Eugene and her split up? Eugene and Rapunzel, and you can't tell me Cassandra's going to do anything to leave Rapunzel's side. So why is this a thing? The only possible one in this trio who might be leaving the group is Cassandra, and even that, there is absolutely nothing up to this point indicating that that's going to be a thing. And don't worry, I'll talk about foreshadowing later. Okay. They also then have a second cliff moment. Why? Like, I know. I just said I wouldn't cover these, and I've already covered 3 in a row. But why do they have a second cliff moment? You know what the cliff moment is, right? You've watched Lord of the Rings. It's when the characters get up and they look at the cliff, and in the distance they can see their destination over there, and it's usually a big dramatic moment. And they did that, and then they lost the caravan. Then they had a singing number, then they go up, and then they are staring on a cliff, looking out over at the Dark Kingdom. It's like I'm mentally picturing this place is like a giant crater, right? So here's like the ground level, and then you go down a step, and then there's another thing, and then you go down a step, and then there's another thing. Okay. So Lance and Shorty are here too. Forgot they even existed for a minute, honestly. Eugene shares the prediction with Max. Max is the one who suggested giving it to Rapunzel, and immediately Rapunzel gets it and shares it. Okay, you know what? Cool. I actually like that. I do. I like how rather than delving into any kind of fake drama, they just immediately give this away to Rapunzel, who then immediately says, "Oh my god, it's Cassandra!" And then they go out of their way to prove that it's not Cassandra. Twice, by the way. That would be interesting, Bionic Bog. Okay. So we get our first opponent of the Dark Kingdom. Crows, the deadliest of obstacles. Either way, then we have another chasm wall. Sorry, I forgot that we actually have a third one. And the episode tries very, very hard to make me think Cassandra's the traitor. She's constantly talking about how she'll do everything to fulfill a destiny. Everybody's got destiny. Okay. Then Adira shows up. And in my notes, I literally said, "Oh, damn it, I allowed myself to forget you existed." But it's okay, because she's dead now. She goes down and she dies, thank goodness. And then it turns out that King Campbell, I don't actually catch his name, Bruce Campbell's character, is Eugene's father? And I'm going to say this one more time. Why? I'm sorry. Why? What does that change? What does that do? Yeah, Eugene is just suddenly a prince of the Dark Kingdom, which of course is parallel to the Corona Kingdom, which, for those of you who don't know, even in the original movie, was originally going to be called the Light Kingdom. Now, if this was Varian, that would be interesting. Although, I'm sure you caught that Varian is actually from the Dark Kingdom, right? Or, more accurately, is of the bloodline. Because he's the son of Kieran. And Kieran is, of course, Dark Kingdom, so... okay. So Adira is a dick, as is her wont. I do like one of the ideas. Edmund, thank you, King Edmund mentions that they built this kingdom out of the natural defenses that formed around the Moonstone. That actually is pretty logical, and actually a really cool way to use a magical artifact. Magical artifacts usually have a degree of intelligence, and they tend to warp the reality around them, right? That's pretty normal in a lot of settings. So, the idea that they would have just built this kingdom up around this tracks pretty hard. In fact, it would not actually surprise me all that much if the Light Kingdom, Corona, was not actually built up around the Sun Drop in more or less the same manner. Now, I know it's a little bit different because the Sun Drop was off on that cliff edge, but it's also still inside the walls of the kingdom, right? Like, you get my idea. So, anyways, yeah, the Sun Drop was kind of lame, and the Moon Drop is this super death thing that controls the black stones of magical death. That's true. The Sun Drop probably made the land extremely fertile, and so there you go. I mean, people, even if they didn't literally, like, even if Sundrop didn't literally form the peninsula, that area is probably very prosperous, and people are going to settle in prosperous areas. So, there you go. Yeah. I was thinking the same thing, Bionic Punk, but we'll get to that in just a moment. So, King Edmund tried to destroy it once. No details, but we find out later, even though he decided on an extreme solution and banished everyone from the kingdom, which is a weird call, but whatever. He was insane with grief. I get that. We also get the implications of exactly what happened. We never say exactly what happened. Just that, you know, I tried to destroy it, and as a result, your mother died. We don't know who else died as a result of whatever happened there. So, okay. This is also then when we have our first lethal inescapable traps gag, which, yay. And then, dun dun dun, Eugene is the traitor, and that's the end of the first half. There's this nice bit where Lance, and I will give the episode credit for this, Lance and Cassandra immediately say, look, whatever he thinks he's doing it for you. And I do like that. You know, that's absolutely correct. Yeah, duh, of course he's doing it for you. So, okay. So they decide to figure that out, but then this is when the episode starts to lose me. Because there's this thing. There's this thing that the whole episode does from this point onwards, and that it can't seem to keep its own motivations straight. So Edmund wants to destroy the Moonstone, and he's got the means to do that. And Eugene wants to save Rapunzel, and he's afraid that destroying the Moonstone will cause damage and possibly kill Rapunzel. So that's why he wants to destroy the Moonstone. So then Rapunzel desperately wants to reach. She wants to hear what he's doing from his own ears, but she also wants to reach the Moonstone because. And a lot of the motivations here make no sense, and they strive very hard for them in way. And I just, the whole time I found myself watching as they keep striving for this. The question that kept popping into my mind over and over was, why? Like, what? I legitimately don't understand what they're going for. I have a theory on this. It is just a theory. We'll come back to that. But this is the beginning of, huh? Which is going to be my tone for most of the rest of this. Then we have the Moonstone breaks the bridge to prevent them from destroying it, because the Moonstone has some degree of intelligence. Cool. What is this sword, and why can it slice through anything? You notice they just kind of do that, right? It's just, hey, here's a sword, it can slice through anything. Yeah, I know it's a deer's sword, but like, huh? Never explained. So I do like the very small detail of the fact that each Flynn Rider poster is a little bit different. That's actually nice. I really enjoy that. And we have the principal characters, Eugene and Rapunzel, who are supposed to be reflective of the dichotomy of the setting. An overwhelming majority of the setting has been very yin and yang. The Light Kingdom and the Dark Kingdom, you know, the Moonstone and the Sunstone. We've also got the idea of Demanitus and Zantiri, which is in the background in the history. So, see, I thought that too, 040. For the longest time, I've assumed her sword was just one of the spikes, and yet it can cut the other spikes, and apparently destroy the Moonstone. So, why? I'm, like, because, I'm sorry, I don't understand anything about this, so I'm just going to move past this. Maybe I'm just a moron today. Maybe I just have no brain. But, like, if the spikes can cut other spikes, why can't they cut the hair? Because the thing that made the hair invincible was specifically interacting with the spikes. So if spikes can kill spikes, then spikes should cut hair, right? Anyways, where was I? So, Eugene has his song. It's a good song. It's a fun song. It's well sung. High marks, pluses. I don't sympathize with Eugene at all here. I'm sorry. Again, I feel like such an idiot watching this episode. I really do. It's not even a joke. I feel like I'm just a brain-rotted idiot because I don't get any of this. Why is Eugene all broken up about all this? Oh no, it turns out that when I was less than 1 year old, I was abandoned and given to an orphanage by a king, which he already knew, except for the king part. And the whole part of the song is him talking about how all his memories. I actually wrote down one of the lines. Where was it? All my memories were not. I went through all my memories, and it turns out all my memories were just built out of sand. Dude, you have spent the last 2 years building a new life for yourself in the course of the show, and also in the movie. While we're on the subject, you're good, dude. Like, you've done it. You've got it made. Why are you suddenly questioning your identity because someone you haven't seen in your entire life turns out to be biologically related to you? It's a good song, but again, the lyrics don't work for me, just like the previous song. And you'll notice this is not the first time I've pointed that out. And once again, I find myself wondering if the songwriting team and the script writing team really weren't coordinating to the way that they needed to be. Yeah, I'm not even going to comment on the fact that the Dark Prince met the Light Princess. Let's just not even touch on that. Well, I mean, no, absolutely, of course they do, Lord Harriman. I mean, come on, we talked about Sonnenberg and his whole father shtick. But I don't get why that would affect Eugene. I don't get why he thinks, like, he flat out states that his life that he has built over the past couple of years, and they show a lot of shots from the show, is suddenly invalidated because of this reveal. If anything, like, I could see this hitting him. I could see this being a kind of thing that throws him into perspective. But if anything, this would be like adding on top of his existing life, not supplanting his existing life, right? So I didn't get that. But then we get a lava sewer. I love the lava sewer. No complaints there. Really, like, the lava sewer was awesome. And this is when I actually wrote down in my notes, quote for quote, actually, a Tangled video game sounds pretty cool, right? Tangled the show, specifically. Like, think about it. Think about as they're going through the caravan section, and this is like, and you've got like this pseudo overworld as you're moving from, like, okay, so we start off up here in Videros, and then we go over to the forest section, and then we're lost on the island, and now we do the island stages, and blah blah blah. And you get to the end, and it's like, all right, time to do the lava level, right? I'm sorry, that sounds cool. I want that game to be a thing. Naturally, that's not going to happen because screw you. We're not going to merchandise this show. Make every character playable, like turn it into. My vibe is something platformy, like maybe either like a full 3D platformer, but I can also see this as a 2D platformer as well, like straight up Mario Wonder style, right? And each character has different kinds of play style and different kit. You can actually have the freaking whip and like swinging whip action with Rapunzel, stuff like that. That sounds really cool. Quick interlude to Shorty sucking. Moving on. So, oh god, yeah, and then yeah, Raps. So Cassandra has like the big swings and can do the most damage, and Eugene can just kind of avoid stuff. It would be so cool. I have a lot of notes here, but they're all kind of disjointed because I don't understand what's happening here. And again, I know I'm an idiot. I understand that. Trust me. Every single day of my life, I have people tell me that I'm stupid. But I do not understand what the hell is going on here. Everyone seems to all want the exact same thing. And they're all fighting against each other for reasons I barely understand. Everyone's on the same page. Why is this a thing? Like, none of us want this to be a problem. And also, I should probably mention, nobody knows what's going to happen when she grabs that stone. Nobody knows what's going to happen when they merge. In fact, that was called out twice before this, is that we don't know the consequences of that. That could have been a motive for someone involved. Maybe Eugene, for example. Maybe Eugene's motive is he wants to destroy the stone so that way the we don't know what doesn't happen. But that's not what he says. That's not what he does, and that's not what happens. It's just, okay, Cassandra's not on the same page. I'll give you that one. We didn't know that at the time. We're not there yet. Notice, by the way, there is zero foreshadowing for that. I'm going to keep coming back to that. So yeah, so she and the rest of the party just follow the Moonstone, and everyone's treating like trying to destroy the Moonstone is a bad thing. And then only the Sundrop can access the Moonstone's power, which is cool and whatever. And big fight scene, which, by the way, would make a totally cool final boss fight in a video game. Think about it. It's pretty much straight up a video game boss fight. Big ghosts, you defeat the ghost. Ghost comes back from the statue. You have to actually defeat the statues. Like, I'm with it. I'm completely with it. Either way. That's what's actually useful. Yes. Yeah, sure, Bionic Punk. We'll come back to that in just a second. There's this part where he's like, he's telling Dad, you've got to have faith in Rapunzel. And I wrote in my notes, in all caps, she has no idea what she's doing. Now, I know that is kind of a thing in these, just got to have faith. So, okay, sure. Having said that, one thing I do like, Eugene straight up says, maybe my destiny is not to join you here, it's to rescue you from here. And given even the tiny tidbits we get show a very tragic and unpleasant history with the Dark Kingdom, yeah, I actually like that, and I'm with that. You go, Eugene. Get your dad the hell out of this place. He needs to work on that inside voice thing. It's a skill. It's a skill. He'll work on it. It'll be fine. So destroy the statues, the boss fight's defeated, the trio goes into the room, and there's this moment of them making it. It's been a whole season, a whole year. And then the moment happens. Now, I'm loath to judge something like this in a vacuum, but that is my job. So here's the deal. This was foreshadowed. Kind of. And I'm really going to stress that word. Kind of. And I know that's not a word. It's actually two words. So we're going to say kinda to make it one word to retroactively make my sentence make sense. Cassandra did, okay, let me first admit, I didn't see this coming at all. Other than my prediction that she wasn't Cassandra, which this episode seemed to be going very far out of its way to proving me wrong on. Yeah, okay. But yeah, so let's talk about that foreshadowing, shall we? So she came out of the door and she saw something. What? Who knows? We still do not know what that is. Okay, cool. Second of all, she hasn't been very huggy towards Rapunzel. They literally flat out showed her as being evil. That's why I predicted that she was replaced by something. Could still be true, by the way. Hasn't been proven wrong, my theory on that matter. And then in this episode, we all have our destinies to fulfill. Anything in favor of destiny. And yeah, she also called Rapunzel princess. I caught that. So it's clear something happened. If you put a gun to my head, I'd still say this isn't Cassandra. Because it makes no sense for this to be Cassandra. In fact, if you tell me this Cassandra, I don't believe you. Because that doesn't track. That doesn't line up. And that doesn't follow through on anything, narratively or thematically. This doesn't work if this is Cassandra. So the question becomes, who is this? I've already given all the possible theories there, and frankly, the Zantiri or Gothel ones are still the strongest ones, I would say. Why? Well, they're the only ones who have a significance to the overall arc that's been going across both seasons, which is the thing about Demanitus versus Zantiri, and that connection between the Darkline Kingdom and all that fun stuff. So that would be my guess, if you put a gun to my head. If this is actually Cassandra? Why? And this goes back to that confusion thing. Because I don't buy it. I legitimately do not buy it. It's like, I've actually talked about this concept before. It doesn't show up very often. I usually don't cover fiction that steps over this line. It's when a character is so fundamentally out of character that I just don't buy it. That I look at it going, okay. And my first thought is not, oh my gosh, she's betrayed us. It's, oh my gosh, who is that really? And where's the real Cassandra? Because it's so out of character that it doesn't track, right? Star Trek has stepped into this a couple of times. MLP did this a couple of times. That's kind of it, like this is a really rare thing when a work of fiction goes so hard into character assassination that I legitimately don't buy its own plot twist. Because if this is Cassandra, I'm sorry, this is character assassination. We have spent 2 years building her up as a character and developing her and making her work. We even had a whole character arc, which I praised, if you remember, about how friends can still be mad at each other and stay friends, strengthening the bond between Cassandra and Rapunzel. Exactly, Ross. You're getting where I'm coming with this. Because it's entirely possible that the next episode is just going to sweep away all these concerns. And I'm trying to walk into this with an open mind. But again, I cannot help but think of being in the position of having to wait for a huge period of time for episode 3 to come out. Remember, season 3 was delayed because of that sabotage thing we talked about. So imagine having to wait longer than usual for the follow-through on this nonsense. Yeah, maybe she was literally killed. That would be awful. I don't want Cassandra to die. She's a great character. But like, huh? Sorry, I got a little bit off track there. The point I'm trying to reach is that Cassandra has had a fairly smooth character arc for the overwhelming majority of 2 years worth of storytelling here. She's been fleshed out. We've seen more depth to her. She's been willing to bend the rules. She's worked along. She's gotten a little bit better off with Eugene. She's connected with Rapunzel. The two of them have a real friendship. Do you remember MLP Season 2, Episode 1? No, of course you don't. But actually you do. It's the first Discord episode. And I bring that one up specifically because something I have said for years and I stand behind is that in Season 1 of MLP, they're not friends. They're not. They're buddies, they're acquaintances, they like hanging out with each other, but they're not friends. In Season 2, and this actually drifted a little bit into Season 3 as well, they started having that friendship tested, right? They had to go past that, right? They had to go over the line of difficulty, because up until then it was all easy. Friendship is not friendship until it's tested and then reinforced. And that's what Cassandra's been doing with Rapunzel. Their friendship has been tested more than once, and it has been reinforced each time. These two are basically nakama, to borrow that term. And you see why I then look at this and say, I don't buy that that's actually Cassandra. I still don't. As of this exact moment in time, I still don't think that's actually her. I think this is something else. Possession, or body replacement, or who knows what, right? Some other thing is going on here. Lord knows we've seen plenty of that in this show. So at this point, you know, all bets are off and everything's on the table. Now, rather than continue to talk about that, let's ask a question. What would be the most interesting and satisfying answer here? Because she does look cool. It's another toy, which they didn't make. Here's the deal. I think if it was Gothel, that would be the incorrect choice from a creative perspective, but possibly the correct choice from a marketing perspective. Let me tell you about a guy named Worf. Now, Deep Space Nine was already doing not very well in terms of viewership, just like most of Trek wasn't at the time. And there was an attempt to do a big moment, a big sweep. They wanted to bring in the favorites in order to try and make the show thing. And it worked. More people got involved in the show. Lots more people watched it, and it boosted DS9's ratings for the rest of its thing. So they brought in Worf and the Klingons. Now, that was an interruption in the story, and arguably not a great choice. Now, it did work out in the end, because adaptive storytelling, backloaded storytelling, we're walking. But the point is, creatively, they probably should have gone with their original idea for that, which, if you remember, was Paradise Lost. A much more powerful and generally much better two-parter than The Way of the Warrior. But they decided to make the marketing move, and it worked out for the better. You see where I'm going with this, right? Bringing in Gothel, bringing in Mother Gothel, that's the marketing move here. That's bringing in the name power from the movies and the central villain therefrom. And it's the kind of thing you see often in this sort of fiction. Jesus Christ, I just got 2 spam texts in a row. You know how people are like, hey, do you want to work remotely with this scam? I just got 2 of those in a row. Anyways, agreed, Bionic Bunk. So bringing in Gothel here would be the marketing move. I think the correct move would just make this straight up Zentiri. Like, I think that would be the correct creative move. However, just because you make the marketing move doesn't mean it doesn't work. And as I just pointed out, Worf did end up working over in DS9, and they did go on to do some really good stuff with that. So I'm walking into this with a fairly open mind. I am. But as of this exact moment in time, I didn't really like this episode very much. Like, that's actually the wrong way to phrase that. Actually, I enjoyed this episode, but there was so many cracks and flaws in the episode that they dragged the whole experience down. That whole, huh? Thing never quite went away. And this is when I bring up Varian. Now, I've been looking at quite a few things with regards to how this show was constructed, because it's me. Because I like looking into those kind of things. And I wanted to discuss this from that perspective. And I've been pointing out several times where it was very clearly Varian, right? Like, you could tell that a certain character's slot in the episode was taken up, or was supposed to be taken up by Varian. So I found a quote from several people, actually, but the big one is the one from Sonnenberg himself, who all said, you remember that letter that Kieran wrote to Varian? That it was supposed to have a big payoff in season 2. Now, I was holding on to that until now, because I was waiting to see what that big payoff was. So you kind of feel the vibe here of where they might have been going with this and where they wanted this to go eventually. Now, let's go ahead. Yeah, no, the letter clearly connects to the Dark Kingdom. Kieran is one of the Brotherhood, right? He's one of the people who left. Actually, it's funny you say that, Lord Herman. I have one last bit of research that I've literally just been saving off to the side. It's a bunch of collected quotes from several of the creators. And I've been holding off on that because I don't know what's in that. So I'm going to save that until we finish season 3. But I'm looking at this and it's like, I feel like the vibe they wanted was for Varian and Rapunzel to remend their friendship and to test that friendship and then reinforce that friendship, while Cassandra does the opposite. Now, this is pure speculative, but if you look at the framework of the whole season, and if you look at the things that we do know about how this is going to work and how this is going to line up, if they wanted Cassandra to be the bad guy all along, this tracks. If they wanted Varian to be redeemed all along, this tracks. And this would explain a lot of the huhs when it came to several episodes in season 2. Because a lot of this was probably scenario writing is like the third step when it comes to writing. It's the thing you do right before you actually sit down and start scripting things. A lot of this was probably already scenario written out. Because it's a TV show, you do a lot of stuff in advance. And then they changed their minds at some point or another. Maybe it was Sonnenberg and his Varian hate, which is a proven thing, which we have receipts of. Maybe it was just a disagreement in the writer's room. Maybe it was because they were trying to mix things up. I have no idea why. But one way or another, we do know they changed their minds on things, and Varian was not in season 2. As a consequence, we have going on. And yeah, it's interesting you say that, Ross, because it feels like Eugene really was going to slip completely into the background, wasn't it? I mean, if this episode was far more focused on Varian connecting with his Dark Kingdom roots, and then he's the one who finally betrays Rapunzel, and Rapunzel is not sure if she can trust him or not. But then neither of them feel good about that. He doesn't feel good about betraying her, and she's like, well, but he's good now. He's worked so hard to re-earn my friendship. Why would he throw that away now? And then you see the two actually reconnect, and everything's cool, and you get it, right? You get how that could slide neatly into the pre-existing framework of the episode. And then Cass is like, wah, ha, ha. And she says the line from Mother Gothel. I noticed that, by the way. Yeah, I think that would have been fine, too. Just keep Eugene as the supportive fiancé. He's not bad in that role. I mean, he's a rogue. He's support anyways, right? Or DPS. Sorry, this is a lot of roundabouts thing. We need to actually review this episode. All that speculation and debate, all of that is just, who knows? I'm trying to apply patterns in places that may not even exist. What I'm left with is an ending which is Yeah, high gameplay, as usual. Did you catch? It's very short. There's like a 1 second scene where they're doing a rotating shot of the crew as they're about to fight the final battle against the ghost. That was a good shot. But, like, this episode is very weird. It does things that make no sense even within the confines of the episode. Like regardless of my own opinions or preferences or speculation, there's so many moments. And yeah, I would actually agree with that. That is storyboarding, which in this case is functionally gameplay. So I would agree with you on that, Lord Harriman. And there's several moments of just something happens for no reason, and then something else happens and they don't even explain why. And again, everyone's just kind of bouncing towards the finale, and then they do the big reveal moment. And I suppose I should talk about that in a vacuum because I've been speculating, but let's throw speculation out the window for a moment. Let's talk about unearned. I hate to say that, but I do think this is, personally, I think this is unearned. A lot of writers, and I absolutely put myself into this, want that big moment, right? They want that thing which makes the audience just go, yeah, or just get chills, right? You know what those moments feel like. And they want that moment of, oh my God, and they really want to have that payoff. Problem is, building up to that and earning that is actually really hard to do. It's the kind of thing that a lot of writers, frankly, can't manage and don't really know how to process the necessary steps to get there. And I mean that, obviously, you don't, I say build up, but the thing is, there's no linear path for building up. If you give it away too much, it's too obvious. If you don't give it away enough, it's too obtuse. Doing proper amounts of foreshadowing, doing proper amounts of development, there needs to be good buildup and then good payoff, right? You need to have that kind of a thing. And I feel like the buildup to the Cassandra reveal here isn't. And there is foreshadowing for it. I pointed it out. You guys pointed it out. You pointed out a couple things I had actually missed. So, yeah, I do think that's there, but I don't think it was built up. I think they wanted the shocking moment, and the most shocking person they could actually think of to grab the stone was Cassandra, so she's the one who grabbed the stone. Or, like I speculated, she was always supposed to be the one that grabbed the stone, and they just kind of ended up ducating her a little bit, right? I mean, I cannot be the only one who's paralleling this to a little bit to pas ducat, right? For those of you not familiar with that, in brief, I'll avoid names to avoid spoilers, but there's a character in Deep Space Nine who was supposed to be the devil. No, like seriously, not literally Lucifer, but, you know, like he was the demonic force behind all of what else was going on in the show. And years of development turned him into an interesting, fleshed out character, occasionally, but not always. And then finally, someone walked in and was like, hold up. No. We've got to course correct. And there was like, chunk, and all of a sudden, that character then turned back into being the devil. Just, there you go, like that. That's a lot of how this feels to me. That they were course correcting to put Cassandra back on the path they wanted her to be on. Assuming this is Cassandra, you know, again, yeah, exactly, unequivocally evil. The bad guy. Instead of this. I'm getting off topic. The point is, I'm thinking green. And it hurts me to say that, honestly. But between... I could honestly probably be talked below green. The way that they... Everything I've been talking about. The question marky scenes, the weird build-up to things that don't pay off, or the things that pay off without any build-up whatsoever. You know, it's just... Yeah, the Cassandra moment, whoever that is at the end. If they somehow make this all make sense, we still have the moments, of which there were quite a few. That's actually why I was starting on green. And that's kind of the problem, is because I could see this technically going below green, depending, but again, episodes are supposed to be reviewed in a vacuum. Yeah, what defines blue? No, this isn't Lamentation. I do agree, this isn't Lamentation. It's funny, I have been accused many times of being too loose with giving out black status. Which I find hysterical, by the way, considering how harsh my requirements are to hit that floor. But, no. I will admit I am debating between blue and green, but I don't think... I think I'm going to give it blue. And I feel really sad about that. But I was just replaying the episode in my head just now. And it's just a jumbled mess. There are individually good scenes, and it does not have that extra oomph to deserve Lamentation status. Theoretically. But there's just the sequencing is off. There's weird disjointedness. There's so many huhs. Oh, I'm gonna get slammed. I'm gonna get slammed in the comments for this, but I'm gonna be honest about it. I think this one's actually a blue. And I derive no enjoyment from that at all. That... Well, okay, so... Thank you, Eternus. Let's talk about Season 2 as a whole. Let's talk about something more positive. So let's look at Season 2, shall we? Yeah, prepare my minutes. First of all, that pushes us up to 49% for the whole season, which is a solid yellow and does beat Season 1, as it should. This is a improvement over Season 1. In several noticeable ways. It does have the same number of reds and blacks and blues, actually. But it traded off a lot of greens and a lot of yellows for oranges. And I know that sounds like a small upgrade, but remember that very good means very good for a reason. Yeah, the island arc, as much as I complain about it geographically, was actually pretty solid. They even had a really good, fun adventure immediately after it with the high seas romp. The Eye of Pencosta was weirdly good. Like, honestly, even looking at the greens were mostly just empty filler greens, not... And yeah, I guess that stands by what it is. And yeah, we do have a much more consistent overall approach across the whole season. You know, we've got very good, not very good, good, black... Just gonna move past that one, you know, and then not very good, not very good, bad, very good, very good, very good, good, great, very good, good, very good, good. And then it starts to dip towards the outro. But I want you to look at that middle period right there. Look at that for a second. Like, honestly, just squeeze around episode 9 to episode 17. That is a long swath of really good television. And that's why I stand by the overall opinion that I gave there, is that this was fun, interesting, engaging, did make me care, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be bothered by any of this. Well, I'm going to go ahead and break for lunch. I am going to be back. Because I want to know what the hell is going to happen in Season 3. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and push to Season 3 today. Before we do that... what do you want to bet? God, please tell me I'm wrong. What do you want to bet we're going to see a repeat of the construction of Season 1 and 2? In other words, Season 3, Episode 1 will be like establishing the new status quo. And then we'll have filler. And then, like, probably a plot episode in the middle there. And then filler, and then plot right at the end. Probably in the last 2 episodes. Oh, I don't know, Act. What is today? Today's Thursday. We will finish season 3 tomorrow or Saturday, which means we will start Tears of the Kingdom at the absolute earliest on Monday, because I'm going to take a rest day after I finish the Streaminations. So bare minimum first start day will be Monday, possibly Tuesday, because I'm not in a rush, not really. So yeah, I'm going to go grab lunch. See you guys.